An ancient civilization was an organized society that developed thousands of years ago. Writing, science, and government have shaped human civilization throughout history. Electricity and digital communication are essential parts of modern civilization. Greek philosophy and Roman law strongly influenced Western civilization. The explorers searched the jungle for a lost civilization that had disappeared centuries earlier. The ancient city had complex engineering, suggesting that an advanced civilization built it. An ancient empire ruled many peoples and territories long before the modern era. The Roman Empire controlled much of Europe, North Africa, and Western Asia. The country created a colonial empire by governing distant lands and their populations. She built a business empire that included hotels, restaurants, and technology companies. The owner expanded his media empire from one newspaper into television and online news. The merchants formed a trading empire by controlling valuable routes and ports. The museum displayed objects made during an ancient dynasty that ruled 3,000 years ago. Members of the ruling dynasty held political power for several generations. The royal dynasty passed the crown from parents to their children. The Ming dynasty governed China from 1368 to 1644. The championship team became a family dynasty under 3 generations of the same family. A political dynasty forms when several relatives hold public office over many years. An Egyptian pharaoh was a monarch who ruled ancient Egypt. The ancient pharaoh ordered workers to build a grand tomb for his burial. Tutankhamun is called the boy pharaoh because he became king while still a child. Hatshepsut was a female pharaoh who ruled Egypt as its sovereign. A tiny pharaoh ant entered the kitchen and joined a large indoor colony. The pharaoh hound is a slender dog breed with large ears and a short reddish coat. A Roman emperor governed the Roman Empire as its supreme ruler. The Chinese emperor lived in the imperial palace and ruled the empire. Qin Shi Huang is known as the first emperor because he first unified imperial China. The emperor penguin is the largest penguin species and survives the Antarctic winter. The emperor moth is a large moth marked with eye-shaped spots on its wings. The emperor tamarin is a small monkey recognized by its long white mustache. An ancient scribe recorded laws and events by hand before printing existed. The royal scribe wrote official letters and records for the king. The court scribe documented the ruler's decisions and legal proceedings. A temple scribe copied religious texts and maintained the temple's records. The medical scribe entered the patient's symptoms into the health record while the doctor spoke. A legal scribe prepares written records and documents for lawyers or courts. Egyptian hieroglyphics used pictures and symbols to represent words and sounds. The ancient hieroglyphics carved into the wall preserved a message from the distant past. Maya hieroglyphics recorded the language, rulers, and history of the Maya people. The temple hieroglyphics were sacred symbols carved across the building's stone walls. The museum hired a hieroglyphics expert who could interpret the ancient symbols. A hieroglyphics translator converts the pictured symbols into understandable language. Cuneiform script was a wedge-shaped writing system used in ancient Mesopotamia. The cuneiform tablet was a piece of clay covered with wedge-shaped marks. Cuneiform writing was produced by pressing a reed stylus into soft clay. The cuneiform inscription was a message carved in wedge-shaped signs. The scholar translated a cuneiform text written on an ancient clay tablet. Cuneiform studies examines the wedge-shaped writing and documents of the ancient Near East. The Egyptian papyrus preserved writing made on sheets from a Nile plant. The ancient papyrus was a fragile sheet that had carried writing for 2,000 years. The reader unrolled the papyrus scroll to reveal columns of handwritten text. Papyrus paper is a writing material made by pressing strips of the papyrus plant together. The papyrus plant is a tall wetland plant once used to make writing sheets. The papyrus manuscript was a handwritten document preserved on papyrus sheets. The ancient pyramid was a monumental structure built thousands of years ago. An Egyptian pyramid was a massive stone tomb built for a pharaoh. The pyramid complex included the main pyramid, temples, courtyards, and smaller tombs. The pyramid temple was a place of worship attached to a pyramid. A pyramid scheme pays earlier members with money collected from newly recruited members. The food pyramid is a triangular diagram showing the recommended amounts of different food groups. An ancient temple was a place where people worshipped their gods long ago. The temple complex consisted of several shrines, halls, courtyards, and sacred buildings. The temple ruins are the broken remains of a former place of worship. A temple priest performed religious ceremonies and cared for the sanctuary. A Buddhist temple is a place where Buddhists worship, meditate, and study their teachings. A Hindu temple is a sacred building devoted to one or more Hindu deities. Archaeologists opened an ancient tomb where someone had been buried centuries ago. The royal tomb was built to hold the remains and treasures of a king or queen. Several generations of relatives were buried together in the family tomb. The tomb complex contained burial chambers, chapels, passages, and storage rooms. The archaeologists cleared the doorway that formed the tomb entrance. The tomb painting decorated the burial chamber with scenes of daily life and the afterlife. The stone circle is an ancient monument built by people in the distant past. The government protected the historic site by declaring it a national monument. The war monument honors soldiers who served or died in a conflict. The old fortress is preserved as a historic monument because of its importance to the past. The villagers raised a stone monument made from a single block of granite. The city placed a public monument in the square for everyone to visit. The ancient artifact was an object made and used by people thousands of years ago. A traditional mask is a cultural artifact that reflects the beliefs of its community. The excavated tool is an archaeological artifact recovered from a historical site. The soldier's original uniform is a historical artifact connected to a past event. The strange line in the scanned photograph was a digital artifact created during processing. The false shadow was a visual artifact of the imaging method, not a real object. Ancient pottery includes clay containers made and fired by people long ago. The pottery shard was a broken piece from an old clay vessel. The artist spun clay on a pottery wheel to shape it into a round bowl. The pottery studio provides clay, kilns, and workspaces for making ceramic objects. In pottery class, students learn to shape, decorate, and fire clay. The pottery maker forms useful or decorative objects from clay. The ancient sarcophagus was a decorated coffin made many centuries ago. An Egyptian sarcophagus was a coffin designed to protect a mummified body. The royal sarcophagus held the remains of a king or queen. The heavy stone sarcophagus was a coffin carved from a large block of rock. The marble sarcophagus was an ornate coffin made from polished marble. Workers lifted the sarcophagus lid to open the ancient coffin. The ancient mummy was a preserved human body from thousands of years ago. An Egyptian mummy is a body preserved through the burial practices of ancient Egypt. The royal mummy was the preserved body of a former king or queen. The mummy case was a decorated container fitted around the preserved body. The mummy mask covered the dead person's face with an idealized portrait. The mummy portrait was a painted image attached to the covering of a mummified body. The ancient aqueduct carried fresh water to a city thousands of years ago. A Roman aqueduct transported water across long distances using channels and arches. The aqueduct bridge carried a water channel high above the valley. The aqueduct system linked channels, tunnels, and bridges to deliver water. Workers cut an aqueduct tunnel through the hill so water could flow beneath it. The water aqueduct is a constructed channel that moves water from one place to another. The ancient citadel was a fortified stronghold that protected the old city. The king lived and governed from the heavily defended royal citadel. High walls and guarded gates made the fortified citadel difficult to attack. The hilltop citadel stood on high ground overlooking the surrounding region. The thick citadel wall protected the central fortress from enemies. The citadel complex included defensive walls, palaces, temples, and military buildings. An ancient colony was a settlement established in a new land by people from another city or country. The government sent convicted prisoners to live and work in a distant penal colony. A space colony would be a permanent human settlement beyond Earth. Thousands of ants live and work together in an ant colony. A queen, workers, and drones live together as a bee colony. A bacterial colony is a visible mass of bacteria growing from multiplying cells. The ancient conquest occurred when one early kingdom defeated and took control of another. The territory came under foreign rule through military conquest by an invading army. The war ended in territorial conquest, with the victor taking control of new land. Colonial conquest allowed an outside power to seize and govern distant territory. The Norman conquest was the Norman takeover of England beginning in 1066. The Spanish conquest brought major American civilizations under Spanish control. Ancient mythology is the collection of traditional stories about gods and heroes from early societies. Greek mythology includes stories about Zeus, Athena, and other Greek gods and heroes. Roman mythology contains traditional Roman stories about deities such as Jupiter and Mars. Norse mythology tells stories about Odin, Thor, and the gods of Northern Europe. World mythology studies traditional sacred stories from cultures around the globe. Comparative mythology examines similarities and differences among myths from different cultures. The ancient ritual was a formal ceremony performed by people long ago. Lighting candles during worship can be a religious ritual expressing faith. Placing offerings beside the dead was part of the community's burial ritual. The initiation ritual formally welcomed new members into the group. The society practiced ritual sacrifice by offering an animal during a sacred ceremony. The participants performed a ritual dance as a formal part of the ceremony. An ancient deity was a god or goddess worshipped by people in an early civilization. A solar deity is a god or goddess associated with the sun. In the myth, the creator deity brought the world and its living beings into existence. Sailors prayed to their patron deity, whom they believed protected their profession. Followers regarded the supreme deity as the highest and most powerful divine being. The local deity was worshipped mainly by people living in one particular region. People consulted an ancient oracle to receive messages or predictions believed to come from a god. A Greek oracle delivered divine advice or prophecies to people in ancient Greece. The Delphic oracle gave prophecies at the sanctuary of Apollo in Delphi. An oracle bone was an animal bone used in ancient China for divination and early writing. The oracle priestess served as a female religious figure who delivered divine messages. She drew an oracle card from the deck and reflected on its symbolic guidance. The ancient priesthood was the organized body of priests serving an early religion. The temple priesthood performed ceremonies and managed the sacred buildings. The royal priesthood consisted of priests closely connected to the king and royal court. In a hereditary priesthood, religious office passes from parents to their descendants. The Catholic priesthood consists of ordained priests who serve the Catholic Church. He entered the ordained priesthood after being formally authorized to serve as a priest. Ancient agriculture involved growing crops and raising animals with early tools and methods. Sustainable agriculture produces food while protecting soil, water, and future resources. Organic agriculture grows crops without most synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. Industrial agriculture produces food on a large scale using machinery and intensive methods. Urban agriculture grows food in cities on rooftops, balconies, and community plots. Through subsistence agriculture, families grow mainly enough food for their own needs. Ancient irrigation brought water to farmland through channels built by early societies. The irrigation system distributes water to crops through connected pumps, pipes, and channels. The irrigation canal carries water from the river to nearby fields. Drip irrigation delivers small amounts of water directly to the base of each plant. In flood irrigation, water flows across and covers the surface of a field. Sprinkler irrigation sprays water over crops in a pattern similar to rainfall. Classical archaeology studies the material remains of ancient Greece and Rome. Biblical archaeology investigates sites and objects connected with lands and periods described in the Bible. Maritime archaeology studies past human activity through shipwrecks, ports, and other remains related to water. Industrial archaeology examines old factories, machinery, mines, and transport systems. Experimental archaeology recreates ancient tools and methods to test how people may have used them. Underwater archaeology investigates historical remains submerged beneath seas, lakes, or rivers. Classical antiquity is the period centered on the civilizations of ancient Greece and Rome. Late antiquity was the transitional period between the classical ancient world and the Middle Ages. Greek antiquity refers to the civilization and historical period of ancient Greece. Roman antiquity covers the culture and history of ancient Rome. Egyptian antiquity refers to the culture and history of ancient Egypt. Near Eastern antiquity covers the ancient societies and cultures of the Near East.